Hi guys, welcome to another episode in the series Conversations with Shelley. Of course, I intend to give you a scripted version of um, this episode. I know you have gotten so accustomed to my random rambles where I just pick, topics from my environment, from persons that I interact and engage with, and I just come here, say what I think about it, um, albeit I may backpedal as I always say, but certainly there are in the moment my honest feelings, my honest truth about whatever topic I decide to speak on. And of course, as I always say, I am never too big to backpedal, apologize, and take it back. But today is not one of those random rambles. Actually, today is one of my scripted version of my provocative thought and conversation. And this one will not come in the form of many topics, but will actually take the form of one single narrative. And that is a narrative that I've wanted to speak on for quite some time in you know, a very structured way. And the one that I want to speak about is being single at 40, whether it is freedom or whether it is some failure. Now, as a girl of, as a girl, as a woman of a certain age, this is something that I think I myself have grappled with, and I've always wanted to put some thought into it, whether or not I feel like being at the age that I am, in my 40s, 40 plus to be exact, um, and single, if it's been for me a period in my life that I feel free, or if it is a failure on my part. And that is what we're going to dive into and have a little bit of a discussion and, as I said, some provocative thought around. But let me just do some housekeeping and some introductions. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, thank you so much for again stumbling on this humble little channel. I'm Shelley, and welcome as always. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who've been here for quite some time, welcome back. Thank you always for being a part of the shenanigans. All right, that being said, one of the things that I've always thought about, having reached this point in my life and I've not been booed up, as you know, we would like to call it, is whether or not in my current state and at my current age, being single is a failure on my part, or if I have unlocked that freedom capacity that many of us tend to are sitting in and sitting in comfortably. Now, there are some persons out there who will hear 40 and single and immediately they think something that is wrong or something is missing within their life. But what if there's nothing missing at all, right? What if for that brief moment you can look at what is happening to you and you can say, "Ah, nothing is wrong. I'm quite fine of, being where I'm at." Because there is a quiet script that society hands out. And we normally get this script by, your late 20s that you're supposed to be settled, you're supposed to be in your 30s, and you're supposed to be building the perfect family life. So that by you reach the age of 40, it all comes together and or it all culminates into you having a husband, the perfect home, sometimes the perfect job, and you're supposed to feel behind if all of this is not there and it's not falling into place as the script that has been handed to you is actually um, you know dictating that it should. But for me, I've come to resign myself to the notion that real life doesn't always follow that particular script, and real life sometimes you have to balance it and you have to realize that your unique circumstance may just be exactly what is fulfilling for you. So let's talk about how does being 40 feels if you're single, or 40 plus if you're single. Is it for many of us a freedom that we feel? So let's talk about whether or not being 40 plus is freedom, right? Let's talk about that part that nobody really denies. you know, um, and more so me, thinking it may just be my moment of freedom. Now, what does it mean? What is the flavor of it looks like? Well, freedom in this instance for me, it means so many things. And I'm going to put a very simplistic mindset or a very simplistic view to it. For me, it means waking up and designing my day without having to negotiate it with anybody. It means moving at my own pace, emotionally, financially, mentally. It means choosing, in many instances, peace over chaos and silencing in many, many, many occasions the noise, receiving clarity for once over confusion. And there's something powerful about not building your life around compromise, just for the sake of it, because you have to be considering the feelings of the other party. And this point in your life when you start to realize what freedom really means for you on an individual basis, you start to realize that your time is actually yours again. Your energy is yours again. And the decisions that you make are also yours again. But let us shift the reality and look into something that a lot of persons may want to say, but Shelly, that doesn't suit me. Yeah? And let's be honest about it. It is not always just sunset and the self growth quotes that we see when we talk about the moments of feeling quiet to yourself and feeling like you're in charge. And sometimes those moments allow you to see a different chapter of life. I mean, the chapter that somebody else will see and resonate and tell you, being 45 and single or 48 and single is a failure. And they may define that failure through the lenses that they look through. And is that optics something that you should consider? Is there a pressure that comes with that? Not because you're doing life wrong, but because you may be considered to be doing it differently. No, there's a balance. There's a balance, and there's actually two truths that can take place at once. Now, here's a truth people don't say enough, and this is what, in many instances, creates that balance. The truth that both things can exist at the same time. You can feel deeply content with your independence and sometimes wonder what a shared life would look like. You can be whole and still be human. So for me, the thing that I always try to remind myself is that while I appreciate the independence that I get from being 40 and single and feeling that level of freedom that comes with it, is that freedom doesn't always mean absence of feeling or absence of having a choice. And sometimes the choice may be very powerful, and of course, that's okay. But there's a point in even my own consciousness, my own moment of sitting with myself, that I have to be careful and realize that being independent doesn't mean that you're devoid of things that create, you know, some amount of codependency. And if I'm at this point in my life that I'm considering freedom as I want to define it for myself, it doesn't mean that I have failed at all, right? Because if I'm reframing what I'm thinking that it should be and should look like for me, now remember, I'm not speaking for all, but I'm giving you a perspective to look at in a balanced way. And reframing that position, maybe being single at 40 isn't really a failure, you know, it is maybe something that you need to reach for. Maybe there is some amount of evidence that you didn't settle for in life and it didn't fit you, but it means that you probably choose yourself over the pressure, over timelines, over expectations that were really never yours to begin with, right? So if you're reframing that point of view and that thought that you have, you will want to see being single at 40 in a different way, to understand that maybe it's not, in its self an absolute science. You don't just pick one or the other. And there may be some convergence of where being single and 40 meets, where you can feel a sense of freedom, and you have to define that within your relationship and within the context that you're operating within. And having now defined that within that particular context, you can get that convergence where being single at 40, 45, 48 can offer you that independence that you need, but framed or reframed in a different way where you can still depend or you can explore some realm of codependency that feels almost as if you're acting independent. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense having heard it, but let it sit with you for a little bit. Let it sit with you for a second and see if there is some way within your relationship or within the potential of looking at a relationship, looking at the potential of possibly dating again, at 40, at 45, as I said, that will allow you to be able to take away, all the romanticization that we put, to being booed up and really sit within what is real about it and really understand that two people can actually come together, exercise their own independent thought, independent thinking, and still doing so such that each benefit mutually from the relationship. But having created that balance for you and having, explored a different point of view from what I was always mindful of sticking in, which is it, for me, in many instances meant freedom. For me, it certainly didn't mean that I failed at anything. But what I wanted to reframe the freedom within is the understanding that freedom can look different if it is agreed upon, if it is carefully thought through by the parties involved. If there's some amount of negotiating that is taking place where everybody reaches a level of terms and conditions that is fitting and suiting. Now, the scary part for a lot of us is when we think about reaching 40 and we have not achieved what the societal script is. We tend to want to look at being single within our 40s as a beast of a different kind, a sports that is of a different nature. And we tend to want to do this because we're tying, the relationship, the traumas that that comes with this age and being where we are at. And we're not able to properly reconcile that in any way. And I think that is where the conflict arises. But certainly, if we're able to resolve that internal conflict and realize that yes, you may have baggages, because of course, at this age, who doesn't? But if it is that, as I said, if you, between yourself and your partner, you look at what it means to be in a relationship that still affords you the right amount of freedom and the right amount of independent thought, then these baggages and traumas, whatever they come with, some of them come with bonus children, some of them come with bonus in-laws and all these kind of things. You may be able to navigate this 40 and single in a different kind of a way and realize that it is indeed freedom, but it is freedom with parameters. It is freedom reframed. So, if any of what I said resonated with you, and you often question yourself at this age, why are you at 40 single? Evaluate if you are remaining absolute and if you're taking one position without a convergence of thought. And for many, the better question might be, what kind of life are you actually building with the freedom that you have or with the freedom that you intend to garner? As always, I encourage you to like, share, and comment. As always, I welcome the comments. And until I see you on the next one, do take care.